We're here, we're queer, and we will continue to change the world. Welcome to Queer Changemakers. I'm your host, Justin Mezzapin, pronouns he, him, and each episode will share stories of LGBTQ plus individuals who are taking action to make a difference in our communities and beyond. Welcome to another episode of Queer Changemakers. Today we have Bishop Allyson Abrams.
I'm glad to be here, Justin. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about what we will talk about on today.
Would you like to give the audience a brief introduction to who you are, what you're up to these days?
Sure. I'm Bishop Allyson Abrams. I am the pastor and founder of Empowerment Liberation Cathedral, a church for all people. Many people got to know me when I came out in 2013 as the pastor of a Black Baptist church in Detroit, Michigan. Hit the newspapers, lots of talk on radio, podcasts, even in Christian newspapers about why this woman bishop married another woman bishop. They could not understand it, but I understood it totally. And so I wanted to be honest, and most people were shocked about honesty. And, it made for good publicity. A lot of newspapers made money off of it. However, it was very devastating to all the things I was doing. But that's how I got to be known by most of the LGBT community. And so I have done lots of advocacy work, lots of justice work, and I enjoy doing that work. I did that work actually before I even came out. I was vice president of NAACP in Oakland County, Michigan, and also was an elected official and did lots of advocating for African American rights, rights of women, just of people in general. So for me to make the shift to then advocating for those in the LGBT community was a natural shift for me. And so I started Empowerment Justice Center, which is a justice organization that was birthed through the justice ministry at Empowerment Liberation Cathedral. And we still do justice work here in DC, Maryland area. We do get grant funding from DC government and have done some wonderful work in the DMV area. Also, I'm always excited to talk about things that I do to help bring healing in the community. I believe that healing is important, especially for our community, because so many people have been hurt by family members, hurt by community, hurt by organizations, hurt by institutions. And so I believe that God set me in this season to help to bring healing to our people as much as possible. So that's kind of what's going on with me. So, Justin, hopefully I didn't talk too much on that, but that's what's going on.
It's kind of what's going on as you list about 8 different things. But it's great, and I love that there's such a diversity of the types of work that you've done. So let's talk a little bit about the Empowerment Justice Center. What is that, and what kind of work, sort of specifically, like what parts of justice is that working on?
Initially, we were looking at how could we advocate for the rights of LGBT persons. And it was important because, there always has to be a voice for the voiceless. And so we just felt that it was key to make sure that if anybody is going to stick up for our people, I hate to use that word stick up, but if anybody is going to speak up for our people, it needed to be us. And I do believe that there's always a need for the voice at the table. And so in a lot of rooms where people were making decisions, there's not necessarily an LGBT voice that is present. So we knew that there needed to be presence and advocacy for those rights of those who in the LGBT community, just as it needs to be today. Also, we work to build coalitions on social justice issues. We specifically now have a grant because we recognize that lots of people in the LGBT community, and we're not cutting off the T like the people on Pennsylvania Avenue are, but we know that there are persons who experience violence at a greater level than others. There are hate crimes that were happening And so we felt like we wanted to be an organization who would help to intercede in some of those and try to promote violence intervention. And so that's what our grant is. We have a grant that deals with violence. And so we help those persons who may be victims of violence. And so we talk about violence intervention, how to prevent possibly becoming a victim. And that's important because sometimes our people, in being so free, we want you to be free, but we have to also be aware and
Yeah.
know what's going on and be aware of your surroundings. Our organization that simply cares about people in general, but especially about LGBT persons and LGBT people of color. These my people. So we're going to make sure that we're advocating and fighting for the rights of our people.
I love that, especially as it's February 2025. There's a lot of things just going on, and
Yes.
sometimes the words we hear don't really seem to be centering or protecting or caring about our communities.
Right.
So taking that step to help us protect ourselves and come together, I think is really needed, especially these days.
Yes.
Um, okay, and so that's run out of Empowerment Liberation Cathedral as well, or
It's his own separate
own
entity,
thing? Okay,
Empowerment Justice Center. Yes, it was birthed from Empowerment Liberation Cathedral, but it has its own 501c3, it gets its own grant dollars, it has its own paperwork and everything.
awesome, awesome. So, Bishop, as you lead Empowerment Liberation Cathedral, which I love the
Well,
name, but
the name
so
is
how'd you choose the
intentional.
name,
I was
right?
going to say it's intentional.
Yeah.
Everybody who joins the church, I have to, in new members class, I tell them,
Mhm.
this is what God gave me because when I came out and so many people from around the country were calling me and they were telling me how marginalized persons in the LGBT community are, how people felt as if they were kind of outcast, thrown away, removed. You know, I felt that we have to do something to empower people. And so, first of all, you have to dismantle, and I appreciate all those who deconstruct. We have to dismantle all of the erroneous teachings and doctrine about us not being the people of God and about us not being divinely created or inspired by God. I feel that the word still does empower people, and you have to empower people with teaching and preaching and just the fire and power of God, the Holy Spirit. So I felt that God gave me empowerment, but
Mhm.
also we're liberating people from all of the wrong things they've been taught, all of the hatred that they've been taught and kind of bought into. And so we were releasing folks from that. And so it's empowerment, liberation. But Cathedral is the church of the bishop. And so that's why the name Empowerment Liberation Cathedral. So, yes, again, these my people. I'm
Mhm.
about my people. I want to help the people. And so we want to empower the people, give them what they need to just be who they've been created to be and to, as people say, run on and do all that God has inspired and created you to do. So that's why the name.
Okay, okay. So in that journey in serving as bishop and helping people become more empowered and liberated, what's a common challenge that people have, or some of the blocks that stop people from being
Oh
empowered
Lord,
and liberated?
that's about another hour. But I'll just do the top two. Let's just do that. One common thing that people struggle with is feeling that God hates them.
Mm,
And I've seen it so much. It's like 90% of the time when people come into the church or people who I meet that refuse to come into the church, they've accepted who they are, but some of them, let me say, but they feel that God hates them. They feel like they're bound for hell because of what the church has said, because of what the church people have said. Let me not say the church said, but the church people have said,
yeah.
and the misinterpretation of scripture. So, people really wrestle with that. And I believe that people really do want to be servants of God and want to have God in their life. And they really do want to have this relationship with the church. but the church leaders, some of them, have outcast them and has caused them to feel as if God doesn't love them. And so many people come in with that. I would say another thing that people wrestle with is that feeling that they can serve in any capacity in the church as an openly gay individual. So we really had to work through that with so many people because the churches, once again, that they were in said that, hey, we can't have anybody gay serving as a deacon. We can't have anybody gay being a minister. We can't have anybody gay being an evangelist. We can't have anybody gay being a pastor. And so the people really wrestle with that. So when I came and said, hey, I believe God is saying that, you've been called to serve as a deacon in the church. And, I've seen your work, I've seen your commitment, and I've seen your passion and the love you have for people. People are like, well, I don't believe that God would have anybody that's gay serving. I said, well, what God is that? Because we serve a God that is so much bigger than that. Our God is a loving God, and God created you in God's own image. And so, how is it that God, who created you, would not know that you were destined to serve in this season? I said, we've got to go back and flush some of that out. And so we do a lot of work with people. And so I'm just telling you the top two. It's a whole bunch of stuff that people come in the door with, but we're just gonna go with the top two because we can't be here all day. But those are two things that are very common with
Mhm.
people for the LGBT community who come into the church after being hurt and wounded by so many other congregations.
Yeah, and I appreciate both of those. I come from a more conservative Christian background church, and yeah, it's a challenge to navigate that balance of
Absolutely.
yes, God loves me, and that there's a place for me here.
Right.
When you hear the voices of the people who said there aren't those spaces. So I love that you're doing that and helping people grow, liberate themselves,
Yeah.
go through that journey.
And
That's
let me
awesome.
say this,
Yeah.
even though we were teaching and had talked about this many times, there was one young lady who came to the church and she would have nightmares. And she would call me and tell me about the nightmares she would have because she loved women. And she was currently dating a woman, but she just couldn't accept that God would love her. And she said, I know I'm going to hell and I'm gonna just enjoy myself until I get there. And, I just know that God hates what I'm doing, but this is who I am. So I'm just gonna party and enjoy myself.
Hmm.
And so I know it took me a year and a half to get this young lady to understand that God does not hate you. The people in the church may be the ones who don't like you, but that's not who God is. And so it took a long time. It takes people sometimes a longer time to accept that God is big enough and God is kind enough.
Hmm.
God is that loving person that he can love you, and it took her a long time. And I just couldn't understand why it took her so long. But I guess if you've been beat down so long and you've been told for so long that God does not love you and that you are not worthy of certain things, then it may take a while for you to then release that and embrace that God does love you and that you are special and you are somebody. I tell you, when I first got to DC, came back to DC and
Hmm.
preached that sermon, you are somebody, the people just couldn't believe it. So, I think I was the right one to come back and let the people know, this is who we are and God
Hmm.
loves us.
Hmm. Awesome. So when did you come back to DC and start the Empowerment Cathedral?
In 2014, I was initially in DC. I went to Howard University undergraduate, majored in mechanical engineering. So I graduated in 1993 with an engineering degree. And so from 88 to 93, I was in DC and I went to Metropolitan Baptist Church in DC. And so there, while I was there, I sang in the choir, had the wonderful privilege of singing with Richard Smallwood and so many other dynamic singers at Metropolitan. I felt called to ministry, so I came back in 2000, I believe. No. I came back. I was licensed in 1998. And so I was ordained in 2001. And so from there, I did ministry and all of that. And so I had moved and I was called to pastor a church in Detroit. And I think it was 2009. I was called to pastor a church there. So my pastor from DC came, installed me as pastor of my church in Detroit. And I was there, I think, for 5, 6 years. And then that's where I came out. So then I came back to DC. And because I knew I still was called to Pastor Justin, just because I came out didn't mean that I was any different. You know what I'm saying? I had to really, when I came out, I had to explain that so many times. I said, now, I was an up and coming preacher. I was asked to be on many different panels and podiums. I mean, I've sat and did a prayer for the Christians along with archbishops and people from different denominations. And people afterwards would tell me, hey, we were so blessed by your prayer and you've been blessed by your preaching. So if that was the case, and the very next day, y'all found out I was a gay person, how is it that I'm different the next day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if y'all liked me yesterday, what changed about me today except for something you didn't know yesterday? So it was really challenging to navigate through that. However, I knew God still called me to ministry. The call had not left just because I said who I was married to. You know. And so I felt compelled to start a church. Like I said, so many people were calling me from different parts of the country. People were writing me in my inbox, and people were, it was just, I was getting so many messages about people saying, look, I don't have anywhere to go. Can you come over to this city and start a church? Can you come to this city and start a church? Can you come over here and start a church? So many people wanted me to start a church just until I said, look, first of all, I can't come to none of these states that don't have marriage equality because I'm not going to be mistreated. Now that I'm not going to do. Now, so I decided to come back to DC since I was familiar with DC, had lived in DC before, had lived in Maryland, had a house in Maryland before. And so I came back, and my wife had lived in Maryland for many, many years. So, we decided to come back over here. And DC and Maryland had marriage equality at that point. It was not across the country. And so what I said was, I'm going to start a church here, and then you guys can have virtual membership to the church. And so that's what I did in 2014. I said, anybody anywhere in the country, y'all don't have a church, y'all feel okay with, you can watch the services online. So we made sure we were streaming in 2014, Justin, so that people across the country could be a part of a church that was affirming. And so now, at some point, people say, Bishop, you talk about being gay too much. It's just too gay over here. I'm saying, well, y'all didn't have nowhere where you could be gay. Now y'all say it's too gay. So, but I wanted people to feel affirmed. I wanted people to understand that, God is okay with you. And so a few times, let me just share this. A few times people brought their parents. And so the parents were a little nervous. They said, oh, we coming to a gay church. So some of their parents that came with them had to come up to me afterwards and say, this was one of the best services I've been to.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. They said, you're a great preacher. And we didn't know what to expect when we came in here. I'm like, well, what do y'all think this is going to be doing? He said, we didn't know. But so, we just have church. That's all I can tell people. However, we affirm people and we give people the truth. And we're not, causing people to hold their breaths because they waiting on the preacher to come down on the gay folks. There's a point in the service where sometimes the preacher's gonna start on the gay people. I told them we don't do that over here. And so, people have been really blessed. People have been healed. I think we are liberating people little by little at ELC.
And I also like when you start affirming more people get affirmed. I think
Yes.
sometimes in some of the gay Christian spaces or queer Christian spaces that I've been in, the straight people take even
Mm.
much more from that because they're just like, oh, wait,
Yes.
this is what churches could be like. Like people
Right.
can actually be affirmed and not have to like hide who they are or like hide
Right.
parts of themselves, or I don't have to put on my church mask today. I
Exactly.
can just be here.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting experience. And then every so
Yeah.
often I end up in some of those previous types of churches, and it's like, huh, this isn't, this may not be for me as much anymore. Uh,
Right. Absolutely.
yeah, and every so often, like in some of these groups, there's these straight couples who have a family who do the things that everyone says they should be, and they don't even feel comfortable in some of those other churches anymore because
Right.
they've seen what a real community can be, and it's like, oh, that why would I go back?
Right. You're absolutely correct.
So
Absolutely.
thank you for giving more people that
Oh
experience.
yeah. I believe it's what I've been called to do. I just need more people inviting more of their straight friends. And that's what I always tell them. I said, don't be afraid to invite your straight friends. We have a guy who's heterosexual and he is the father of I guess about 7 kids. And, his wife, um, she's not a believer, but he comes and some of the kids come. And so he invites his friends, and some of his friends give him a hard time. They're like, what you doing over there? Why are you over there? He was like, why wouldn't I be over here? He was like, I love the church. The preacher is great. Y'all ought to come and listen to her messages. And so I had some people who would listen online. Some heterosexual persons would listen online. And some of the people they would then go back to who were members of the church said, my friend loves your Bible study. He said, this Bible study is better than her Bible study. I said, well, why is she scared to come to the church? so
Mhm.
so some of the people are more concerned about what other people are going to say, if they come to a church where it's led by an LGBT person. But they do recognize that they're getting what they need spiritually from the congregation.
I hear that and I listen to it and I think about society and politics these days, and I'm like, huh, how do we expand that? Or
Yeah,
how do we not just expand it, but also like, but that's a problem, right? Where it's like, oh, I would receive good things, but I can't, what would other people
I don't want
say?
to go over there. Yeah,
Right? And it's like, but, but it's still good. What do you, what's your real goal? What's your real goal? What's happening here? Um,
right.
but okay, so before we started recording, we had a little conversation, and you mentioned that a little event is happening in March on a certain day. And
Yeah.
in March, you're celebrating a little something.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
what are you celebrating this March?
So I'm excited because when I initially got married, marriage equality was not across the US. And my wife and I had to go to, we could have come to DC, but I told her, no, I don't want to come to DC. So we went all the way to Davenport, Iowa to get
Oh,
married.
oh, hmm.
Yeah, we had to bypass some states because some of them wouldn't allow you to do it. So we went to Davenport, Iowa. So in March, we'll be celebrating 12 years of marriage. It's a wonderful thing to be able to make it to 12 years. And so that's what's happening. I'm very happy to be doing that. We're looking to see what we're going to do. And so, you just always have to make time for the wife or make time for the husband, whichever one you have. But yes, it'll be 12 years in March.
Awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This episode will be released around Valentine's Day.
Oh, great. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So, for those of us who want to get that far, or those of us who may be single, or those of us who have given up on love, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah. Any advice for people or any lessons learned in that process?
Yeah, let me say, I first love relationships. Okay. I think relationships are wonderful. But I do think when you talk about being in an intimate personal relationship, you do have to be friends first. I counsel a lot of people. I tell people you got to be friends first. So sometimes people go in, they're just all about the attraction, they're just about the sexual activity, but you got to get to know each other. Spend time talking, be friends. Not saying that the other stuff is not going to be there. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying try to get to know each other and, have conversation, have honest conversation. I understand the mask. I do. Sometimes you've been hurt so many times, you're just like, okay, I'm not really gonna make myself vulnerable. I'm not talking to anybody else. We just go, see where this goes. But at some point, you have to be honest and you have to talk about your feelings, talk about, what you need. And so when I counsel couples, just I tell them, you didn't tell this person what you're expecting. What are you expecting in this relationship? What are you expecting from this person? Okay, let's just say if you have a boyfriend, what is that boyfriend supposed to do? Okay, what is your idea of a boyfriend? Because see, y'all's ideas might not be the same. And so when they start not matching up to what you say you're looking for, then that's when it's going to be a problem. So y'all
Mhm.
need to start out telling each other, this is what I think a boyfriend or partner should do. Okay. And I even ask them, okay, what's your idea of a wife? What do you know about a wife? What do you know about a husband? What do you think they're supposed to do? Or what do you want them to do? And what are you willing to do, for them? And so we just have to be honest, put things on the table. And then if something ain't working, come on, let's be honest and say, hey, this ain't working for me, or even, with intimate stuff. Sometimes you gotta say, I really didn't like that when we tried yesterday. So let's not go back there. Or, are you open to trying this? Because some
Mhm.
people don't like routine. Okay. And so sometimes you need a little something else. And you need to mix it up a little bit. And so if that's what you're looking for, you need to be honest and tell the other person that. Or if the other person is not giving you what you need and you feel like you're winding down on this relationship here, maybe you should give them a notice before you just check out. Okay, because sometimes we check out and we haven't even told the person that I'm about to check out here. I need you to do something different, or can we try some things before I check out? And so, communication is key, and I think that's important. But also, we have to realize that, some people have challenges talking, and so we have to learn how people communicate. Also, I don't think we pay enough attention to each other, and so we got to pay attention to each other. We got to communicate. We also have to be understanding. We have to know everything is not about us. And compromise is key. Okay. Where you want to do something, what does that other person want to do? And so today, with society the way that it is, with people the way that they are, people very narcissistic, very self-absorbed. I can only imagine, honey, what Melania has to deal with somebody that's so self-absorbed and narcissistic as that other person. Okay. And so, we have to make sure that we're considerate of other people's feelings, just like we want them to be considerate of ours. And so, let's work on compromise, let's work on communication, and let's work on being kind to one another. I forgot that, Justin. We've got to be kind to one another. Okay. Sometimes people are not kind. And I've seen people, and I stay in my lane, I mind my business unless they bring me into it. But sometimes
Mhm.
couples are not kind to one another. And so why do you have to be mean? Why do you have to be nasty? Okay. And if there's a reason for that, maybe you need to sit on somebody's couch and talk to them about it. Maybe you need to have some counseling. Maybe y'all both need to be in counseling. I don't know. But, there's no reason to be mean and talk to people as if you don't love them or don't care for them. And so we just have to make sure that we're demonstrating love and kindness and be compassionate. There's a lot going on with people today.
Okay. Okay. I could tell you're a preacher because you have a good word to share, and you know in and of itself, that's a nice little. That was a whole little sermon, especially yeah, as people navigate relationships and love and communication, honesty, consideration, kindness, and more
Yes.
and more.
Yes.
So thank you
Absolutely.
for sharing that, and I hope that as people navigate this season, holiday season, that we get to put some of those into practice. Even
And,
people just like, hey, what do you even want? Just know what you want at least,
right,
and then
right.
eventually communicate that out.
And
But
don't forget that gift, honey. Don't forget it. That gift for Valentine's Day. You better make sure you got it. I don't care what you get something. Because people need to know that they're thought about. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
so even if they're a friend, one of the things I always deal with my children and my kids, well, my youngest daughter, she's not 30 yet, but um, she'll be 29 this year. My son, he'll be 31, and my oldest daughter's 32. So one of the things I always did, and they still expect me to do stuff. I'm like, aren't y'all grown? But I used to always buy them something for Valentine's Day because I wanted them to know that you'll always be my Valentine. Even though you're my kids and I'm married, you still will be my Valentine. So my oldest daughter, she's like, Mom, are you still sending me something? Because she moved. She lives in a different state. I'm like, girl, am I supposed to mail you something across the country? But I do because I want her to know she's still special, just like my son and my daughter. Even though my son has a girlfriend, and they do all kind of stuff. Still, I'm like, I'm gonna still send him something. So I think it's important to just let people know. Now I ain't going all out. Look, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever need to go all out for you. I'm the mother. I'll send you something, but they need to go all out for you. But I think people should know that they're thought of. And so, on Valentine's Day, you have a friend, all you can do is send them a card, let them know that they're thought of. Maybe send them a stuffed animal, let them know they're thought of. But I do think, especially if you're in a relationship with someone and you're nurturing that relationship, trying to decide, is this going further? What are we going to do? Just make sure you have something, or you go out to dinner or something to say, hey, I love you, I'm thinking of you, and you're special to me. And so I think that that's always important.
some good advice, some good advice, and make sure this episode comes out before Valentine's Day, just in case people forgot. That was my
Absolutely.
little word. That was my little word. Um, all right, all right. Trying to think. So where again is the church? And what's the website if somebody was interested in learning more specifically?
So the website is Empowerment Liberation Cathedral.org. Currently, we're meeting in Mount Rainier, Maryland, which is right over the DC line. We're literally at Rhode Island Avenue, which we know turns into Maryland at the end of DC. So it's 3311 Rhode Island Avenue. We use the Mount Rainier Art Center on the first and third Sundays at 11 a.m. So this is Black History Month. We are celebrating Black History Month. We're not allowing what people and what's going on in the country right now to cause us to not celebrate Black History Month. We
Mm.
are Black history. Everything that we do, we're making history and we're making it Black. And so, as we live and breathe and accomplish all that God has purposed and intended for us to do, we are
Mhm.
making Black history. So we are still celebrating Black History Month. So on the third Sunday of February, people can join us at 11 o'clock in person, or you can always watch online. We stream live every Sunday, and people across the country join us on Facebook and YouTube at Empowerment Liberation Cathedral. We're in person. People also can join us on TikTok. We're still on TikTok. Hey, it went out and it came back. Thank God. So we're still on TikTok on Sundays, first and third Sundays at Empowerment Liberation Cathedral. So, we're church for all people, and we want the people to come. And so I told the people we are working on 2025 and 2025. So, the pandemic brought the numbers way down because people were afraid to come and be in the space.
Mhm.
People had COVID. Now people have had RSV, people are having pneumonia and the flu and all these different things, but we still want to come together and be in the space. And so we invite everybody to join us on first and third Sunday in person, but every Sunday virtually at 11 a.m.
Awesome, awesome. And I'll definitely have links to the church in the show notes so people can connect more and
Thank
hopefully.
you. And
So,
look, every Wednesday, we also have Word Wednesday, which is a study. I've taught on many different things, and some folks won't believe Justin and I even taught on The Secret. That's a big movie. It's a
Oh,
book, and lots of people
mhm.
read that. Look, we love that. I taught that for 3 summers straight. People love that because the law of attraction, many people were really blessed by that. And so we talk about different things on Wednesday nights, and that's at 7 o'clock from 7 to 8. And we're live on Facebook and YouTube on Wednesday nights from 7 to 8 at
Awesome.
Empowerment Liberation Cathedral. Yes.
Cool, cool. So you touched on Black History Month, and last year, I think someone else was like, "Yeah, it's Black History slash Black Futures Month." I'm like, "Ooh, I like that."
Okay, I like that.
Right. So, question for you is, when you think about our Black community, what's something that you'd want to see that's next? Like, what's your vision for our Black community?
Well, if I could be honest,
I
one thing I really want us to see, one thing I really want to see from us is for us to support one another and be on one accord. I often feel that we are so divided that that's how people continue to come into our community and continue to marginalize us, continue to dismantle all that our ancestors worked very hard to build.
Mhm.
And so we have to some kind of way come together and put aside our prejudice, put aside our bias, put aside all of the judgments of what's going on, with people. I really think that if Black people could see the God in each other and could understand that we are who we are and we've been perfectly made in God's image, that and doesn't matter who you are, I really think we would do very well. But we have so many things that divide us, so many things that we don't like about each other, so many things that cause us to not talk to each other, can't accept one another, cause people to put people out of their families, out of their homes. And I mean, I believe time is out for that. I believe we just have to come together as one people and do the work that we need to do so that we can excel and be the chosen people that we really are. Sunday, I told the people, y'all know we're the chosen people, and we're the smartest people to ever dwell on this planet,
Mhm.
on this earth. And so we've got to recognize that because we've allowed people to bamboozle us and make us think that we're not the smartest people, but we are the smartest people. I mean, we're the people who descend from those who built the pyramids
Mhm.
in Egypt, which they still can't figure out how we did that today. And we built the White House. We built so many things. We're a very smart people, and we're very gifted people. We're very talented people. That's why we have so many in the NBA, so many in the NFL, so many who are in entertainment industry, so many who are at the tops of their careers, and we have so many who are not allowed to be the CEOs and presidents of these Fortune 500 companies, but they know the gifts and talents of our people. And so I believe that if we would just come together, people of all shades, if we could just come together, we would be able to do great things because you can do great things in mass numbers. And we got the numbers, we got the talent, we got the gifts. We just will not allow those things that they put in our spirits and put in our minds that separate us to be removed and allow us to come together. So I would like to see us come together and work together and really be for one another.
Mhm.
We got so many people who are pretenders today. It just annoys me. People act like they're in your corner, but they're not. They're just there to see what you're doing and then stab you in the back. Well, if we would really come together and really be for one another, I think we would do great things and we would really be the leaders in this country.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, we come together, like collaboration and community are some things I enjoy and try to put in many of the things that I do. And that sort of speaks to it. Just, we came together as a community and collaborated. Like there's a whole lot that
Yeah.
we can
Whole
accomplish.
lot that can be done.
And just like different perspectives coming together. And it's like, hey, we're all in this for that liberation and
Yes.
being empowered to do it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the things that really is hurtful is that so many people say, oh, well, we don't need the gays. but I think you do. Y'all listen to gays' music.
Mm,
The people want to say that, the gospel singers, a lot of them are not gay. A lot of them are. They're just not telling you. And so, you do. People say that they don't, need those who are part of the LGBT community, but you do. This is where the gifts and talents are.
yeah.
And so, we've got to remove some of that thinking, all of it, and just know that we're all God's people. We're sisters and brothers, if not cousins, if not third cousin, fourth cousins.
Mhm.
Somebody's cousin.
Yeah,
So, we just have to work together.
we do, we do. And we're sisters and brothers. So if you're gonna say that, you're like, oh, I don't need my sister, my brother, my cousin, my like, is that what you're really saying? What does that mean? But okay, okay. So this middle section of the podcast, there are two main questions that I asked, and this next question is similar to what I just asked, but it'll be different. So
Okay.
now, when you think about our LGBTQ plus community,
Hmm.
what's the vision you have for the next step? Like, what would you like to see next in our LGBTQ plus community?
That's pretty simple for me. I
Hmm?
would like to see the LGBT community be healed and know that God loves them. Also, I would like to see the LGBT community come back into the worship space, come back into the church space, and not hide out in these other spaces. Because so many people in the LGBT community, in my opinion, want to hide out in the other spaces and not come to the spaces that are affirming. And so you
Mm,
hide out in these other spaces, you continue to go over to these spaces, and you actually continue to promote their ministry versus promoting people who are like you and who are with you and who support you and who love the same way you love. You don't support them. And so you continue to give, you continue to uh, give of your gifts, your talents, your abilities, and your tithes over to somebody who does not support you. And then the people who do support you, you will not support. And so that's like, to me, if Black people have a business, you say, I ain't going to support the Black people. I'm going to go over here to the white person and support them. And when God has given people who look like you, um, you know, the wherewithal and the know-how to have a business, but you refuse to support them. And so to me, the people in the LGBT community should support those churches. I mean, I know every preacher is not going to resonate with you, but there should be some LGBT person that does resonate with you, that you can go and support their church and be a part of their church. And so to me, I first pray that we are healed as a people and we understand that God does love us and God is with us and God is not the one who's hating you, it's the people in the church. But secondly, that we will not be so full of self-hate that we cannot go into an LGBT led church or spiritual space, and I
yeah.
just think
Yeah.
that we have to, look at that and really assess why are we not going there.
Thank you for answering it and answering it that way too. So I think that healing is key, right? That healing will heal some of the self hate that some of us have, um,
Yes,
and heal through it. And like the story you mentioned earlier, not everyone's healing journey is quick. Sometimes
yes,
people need a lot more time
right,
because you know they've experienced something for a whole lifetime, right? And it's
yes.
probably not gonna be one sermon that changes it all or
Oh,
one
absolutely.
experience, but having a space where people can heal, I think is
Yes.
important. Okay. So we're gonna do some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
And now we're gonna actually be really rapid fire. We'll see if we can do this. Okay. Question one. World Pride's gonna be here in DC, right? So when you think of the word pride, either the experience, the feeling, what comes to mind when you think of pride?
Excitement. I just think about the flags,
Mm,
the colored rainbow flags and people being really excited and there's high energy.
okay. What is something that inspires you and why?
Oh man, good preaching always inspires me. Good preaching and good singing. I'm always inspired. But I like to see also people succeed. And so I did watch the Grammys, and I'm seeing
Mm,
people of color succeeding and doing well. So I'm always excited about that also.
okay, nice. Love that. What is something you do for self-care?
Self-care. Oh, wow. I like to binge watch. So I've been binge watching shows, take my mind off of everything that's going on. I also like to go out to Annapolis and watch the boats because I like the serenity of the water.
Okay.
And I love to do that. During the pandemic, I did that like every week, every Sunday. I went and just kind of watched the water, watched the boats come down in Annapolis. So I like quiet, but I also like to binge watch and I also listen to comedy.
Oh, and that takes me to my next question. Do you have a favorite joke?
I'm not sure if it's a joke, but I do like Ricky Smiley. He's like one of my favorites. Plus, he came from the same hometown that I came from in Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm a big Cat Williams fan and Ricky Smiley. So, Ricky Smiley has this thing that he does with the people in the choir. Okay.
Mhm.
He does religious comedy sometimes. And so I love the fact because I can so relate. He has a joke where he does where it's time for the lady solo. You know how you have a solo that you sing,
Yeah.
and sometimes the people in the choir, uh, I don't know, they get amnesia or something. I don't know what happens, but the organist starts playing a song, and he says the person in the choir, the soloist, who knows it's her song, she was already told she was gonna have to sing her song, but when they start playing her music, she's like, "What? Y'all want me to sing? That's my song." And she kind of tip on up to the mic and she starts
Mhm.
singing. So people act like they're in shock about it's time for them to sing. Child, you knew you were singing. We went to choir rehearsal. You practiced the song. You knew we told you you need to be ready to sing the song today. But the way he does it, it's like hilarious. Okay. And so I really like that particular joke and some of the jokes he does about church, with the lady reading the announcements. I really love those. So, but I will say the person who acts like they don't know they're supposed to sing and they have to clear their voice when they get up to the microphone, you know, doing that.
Yeah.
Can you come on and sing the song? So it's just really, I love his comedy because I can relate. I've been in church ever since I was a little kid. And so a lot of the things you have to kind of know the people to know that
Mhm.
that's kind of stuff that they do. So that would be my favorite.
Love it. Love it. All right, two more questions. So, who is a
Okay.
queer change maker that inspires you?
Hmm. Queer change maker. Wow. Okay, so I'm kind of stumped by that one. Hold on.
Okay.
It would probably have to be somebody older. I mean, I like some of the younger people. I was glad to see Janelle Monáe came out.
Oh,
I like her. I liked her performance at the Grammys. Hmm. I would say anybody who is advocating for the rights of LGBT persons. I read some of the LGBT news, and those who are usually at the Capitol speaking out, those who
mhm.
are making sure that our laws are not going away, equal rights are not going away. So I would say people who are working with, is it Lambda Legal? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I have much respect for them and also those who are working with the ACLU because I'm one for laws and policies. And so those people who are working in those areas, I got to work to find me a name. But those people would be the ones who I would admire most because they're on the front lines and
Hmm.
they're doing the work to make sure that we are still protected.
Awesome. And yeah, I think there are so many people doing that too. So it's maybe hard to find the specific name, but I love that.
Yes.
Okay. And now, final question of the podcast. Do you have a piece of advice or a guiding word of wisdom that has been helpful for you in your journey that
One of the things, Justin, I would say is to never stop being you. Okay. I know many people who hide who they are and who just feel like, okay, I just need to only be me in the club, only be me at the party or whatever. And I feel that it's important that you never hide who you are.
Mhm.
I was really touched years ago when some young people wrote me and wanted to interview me from, I think, a middle school or something like that. And I said, oh, wow, how do they even know who I am?
Hmm.
So but they had heard about me from when I had come out, and I guess somebody had told them. And then I had another person who was teaching in a school in DC, and he sent me a picture. He said, Bishop, your picture is up here on the wall because the young people have in a classroom that you're a person who came out and you lost your church and all that, but you started another one. And I said, oh, wow. And so I've just always been determined to not hide who I am, even though sometimes people don't like it. They say you're too gay. Well, I don't think you can be too gay. But I think it's important to never stop being you and be you in all spaces, whoever that is. But also, I think it's key to know what you stand for and stand for
Mhm.
something, because there are people who have to come behind you. And so again, me being a justice person, policy person, and one who advocates for others, I do understand that there are people who have to come behind me. And so if I'm not willing to stand up and to be a person who is going to be unashamed, then how is it that people behind me are going to be able to be out and be proud of who they are if I can't do the same? So I feel that those are my two things at the moment that I can share.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so very much for making the time to have this conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey, your story, and so many good words. So many good words. You've been called to inspire, empower, and help liberate. And in the beginning, we were just talking about, yeah, being honest. Even at the end, it's like being
Yes,
honest in who you are. So thank you so
absolutely.
much for all of this.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciated being here today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Queer Changemakers. This is Justin, and I hope you are able to get some inspiration and maybe some ideas about how you can take action to create positive change in your life, communities, and beyond. See you next time.